What's up guys, Everything Apple Pro here, and in this video I wanted to talk to you guys about the Apple Watch, mainly 10 reasons why it sucks. While true, it is a good looking device, there's a lot I like about it. However, at this point in time, there are several things that are wrong with it, things that just don't make sense. In this video, I want to bring all of that to light to you. Of course, before you put your hard-earned money towards the purchase of one of these guys. So when Apple initially announced this device, there was a lot of hype. I myself got really excited, but Apple is just really good at that. I mean, they're very good at getting people excited. When all of the hype settled, we could see through and eventually got some more details about this device, and it's not as it appears. There are several negatives to it. Probably the biggest negative of the Apple Watch is its price. Now, starting at a modest $349, and it quickly jumps to $17,000, of course, based on which edition you want to get. Now, the higher end models are more of a status symbol. You're only going to buy them if you want to show off, and ultimately that really doesn't make sense because it's going to get outdated so soon. But the base $349 model gets you a 38mm version, which is typically for females. Now, you guys are probably going to want the larger display, 42mm, and that starts at $400. It's hard to justify a watch when it's so expensive. Next, the Apple Watch doesn't really fulfill any unserved need. I mean, Apple hasn't done a good job at telling us why we need one. They're trying to market it as a fashion accessory, as a status symbol, yet we don't really know why we need one. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it has nice specs and the display is pretty awesome, but there's really no basic reason why you'd need to get one. Your iPhone can do everything this thing can, except it's on your wrist now. Now, the battery life on this thing is just terrible. Tim Cook said we can get a full day's use out of it, which equals out to about 19 hours of standby light usage. When you're actually using this thing for the applications, you're going to get 5 hours of total usage. Now, of course, nobody's going to be using this thing for 5 hours straight. However, it just goes to say the battery life is pretty terrible. And following up to that, that means you have to remove this thing every single night, take it off and put it on charge. Although the charger is wireless, you don't have to plug anything in, it's still an inconvenience. The whole point of a watch is something you put on and completely forget about it until you need it. Next, this thing is not waterproof. It has an IPX7 rating, but that means if you're going to spill stuff on it, it's not going to be entirely waterproof. It can last 30 minutes in 1 meter, but that's not while moving around while swimming. You're not going to have a good time. So definitely don't take this thing with you to the beach. However, it will be mildly water resistant. Now, while the Apple Watch will be compatible with the map application, it'll have one of its own, it has no built-in GPS, which is a major drawback. That means on all runs, you got to carry your iPhone with you, while other sport watches work with GPS independently. They don't need a phone. Now, if you don't carry your phone around while you run, no problem. However, if I were to guess, the next generation of the Apple Watch will include a built-in GPS. It's just an inconvenience. Now, the Apple Watch will come with 8GB of memory, which is not too bad compared to other smartwatches. However, there will be restrictions on how many things you can put on it. Only 2GB of music and 75MB of photos. I mean, what the heck? With my camera, that's like 2 or 3 photos. That just doesn't make sense. So the restrictions definitely suck. There's barely any memory, and buying a more expensive model won't get you any more memory. Whether you have the Apple Edition Gold version, you'll still be stuck with 8GB. I mean, that really carries over into my next point, which is that this thing is going to be outdated. If you pay over $1,000 for this thing, how disappointed are you going to be in a year when the new version comes out with a whole bunch of new features and you're still stuck with that $1,000 or $17,000 watch without a GPS on board? I mean, you're going to hate yourself. Now, some early reviewers were actually mentioning that this thing is not going to be very quick. It has an S1 chip built by Apple, which is comparable to the current A5 chip found in the iPhone 5. However, if you're going to download around 200 applications, your device is going to start to get a little bit laggy. And once we have the device in hand, of course, we'll be able to do full reviews, see how that really translates. But early reviewers are basically saying this thing is going to get slow the more things you have on it. Now, while the Apple Watch is being marketed as a health-oriented watch, a product that'll help you get in shape, stay in shape, it's not a very good one for one reason. There were a lot of sensors that Apple cut from the device because they just couldn't get it to work how they wanted to. A lot of the competition has more health-oriented sensors. For example, a UV sensor on Microsoft's band, which will tell you if you're out in the sun too long. Now, that might not be important for too many people. It's just a good thing to have. It also has a skin temperature reader, which the Apple Watch does not, as well as some other sensors. Now, a few bonus ones. Your iPhone now has the Apple Watch app, which is undeletable. You cannot delete this even if you're not going to own an Apple Watch. I mean, that's pretty annoying. Apple's pretty much shoving this thing down your throat. Now, the basic Sport edition of the Apple Watch will not have a sat sapphire crystal display. It'll have an ion strengthened glass, which Apple says is for better durability when it comes to dropping it. The sapphire crystal display has better scratch resistance, but it'll crack if you drop it. That may be a negative for some. Personally, I prefer the crystal display. However, I can't get it if I'm paying only for the base model. This may not be a big deal for others, but personally, I like to track my sleep. Now, with the Apple Watch, that proves to be difficult because you're going to be charging this thing overnight. It can't stay on your arm for sleep monitoring, which other smartwatches can do. And lastly, the Apple Watch is pretty much a test. The first generation of any Apple product will be replaced in about a year, maybe a year and a half, but you're basically paying to test this device. All of the negatives, all of the problems you will be experiencing as a first-hand customer. When the next generation comes out, of course, it will be better. There will be more issues that have been resolved, but in the back of your head as an early adopter, you know you're testing all of the negatives of this thing. And of course, that's your decision, but I just want to put that out there. And guys, there you go. That's everything that's wrong with the Apple Watch. Now, Apple in the second generation might improve things, might make it better, but currently the Apple Watch just doesn't seem ready for prime time. The battery life, the cost, the fact that it hardly makes your life any better. If anything, it complicates it. This thing is not ready for prime time yet. So hopefully this video gave you a little bit of an idea, a negative side towards the Apple Watch, some reasons why you shouldn't get it. However, I gotta tell you, this thing is pretty awesome. There are some really cool things it can do. And in my next video, I'm gonna be showing you the top 10 awesome things about the Apple Watch. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, buy this thing at your own risk. Have a great day, guys. Peace.